good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I wholeheartedly offer whatever suits your time zone. And more importantly, I say blue morning to you because it is the Blue Morning Show. And today I'm happy to have my friend and my brother, Matt from CFC Chat. Matt, welcome back to Chelsea Perspective.
Thanks for having me on, Coach Chilla. We're definitely going to discuss a great topic, a big topic today, and obviously we have
Yes.
some alternatives while I'm going through. So, guys, smash that like button, comment below, and yeah, we'll get into it.
Yes, people do smash that like button and drop a comment if you like and share the stream so that other people can join us, just as Matt said. So, Matt, overall, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm doing pretty well. Just finished a soccer game now, so I'm a bit tired. Coming here, talk some more football, which is good.
Mm, yeah. Good morning to Stav who's in the chat. And good morning to the queen of all streams herself, Street Beer. She says, cannot lie, I adore Billy Gilmour. I have a friend, I haven't spoken to her for a while. What's her name? She has a YouTube channel. I think she's a friend with Street Beer too. I remember her name. She loves Billy Gilmour, and I did make a video with her also. So, Matt, let me start by asking you, what do you think about Jorginho's role at Chelsea? Do you think it's overhyped, or do you think he's, one of the most critical players to the way we play? Because if you ask me, I love him. That's the truth. I love Billy Gilmour too. And I've always argued Jorginho is very critical to the way we play, and we don't seem to play when he is not there. But I think on occasions now of late, I've been proven wrong. I've seen like we can actually do without him and even do better without him. But don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean he is a better player. Not Felicia, not Felicia. She's English. The person I'm talking about is English. She has her own channel. I'll remember her name. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Jorginho. People know that. I think Jorginho probably in the Champions League had one of the most critical role in us winning that trophy for sure because we can sit here and explain 45 minutes on what he does, but people don't understand
Mm,
the positioning he plays. Like, we're in the modern day football where people, they expect goals, assists, skills, dribbles, this, that, but he has a basic role, but the basic role is important. Simple is the best thing in football. So I understand that, he doesn't represent a massive spot. Like, yes, someone else can possibly do his job, but he doesn't do his job as good as him. Like, he only has that one role which he does well, and it limits him to his other roles. But he does that role so well, which it kind of makes up for the other roles he doesn't. And that role that he does is technically composure. And the composure he uses when he gets the ball, he slows it down, he plays it slow, and then he builds it up slow. Like, he doesn't rush it. And at times that's good, but at times that's not good. So I think overall, 100% will keep him in that team. I think he's very, very critical. I understand why he gets a lot of hate because people unfortunately don't like these type of players who produce so much. Like, we saw him in the Ballon d'Or, he got top three. Like, for me, I think that was deserved. Like, he was one of the most critical role in winning us the Champions League, and he was the most critical role in winning Italy the Euros. So it works both ways in that point. But I do think Jorginho is very highly overhated.
yeah, I think he's overrated. You say highly over what? Overhated?
Overhated, hated. Yeah.
Overhated. I think in that light, I see him also as John Mikel Obi, who's still for me one of the most underrated players I've ever played for Chelsea. Blue morning. First, before I continue, I'd like to say blue morning to those in the chat. I've said hello to Queen of All Stream Street Beer. Hello to you, my brother Ankit from Almighty Blues FC, great channel, and hello to my brother Mikael. Hello also to um staff over there. Yeah, I'd say yes, he's overhated, he's underrated. I think most people, and the truth, let me put it this way, it takes a great footballing mind to understand what Jorginho gives to the team. Again, my argument before has always been before we can start effectively switch systems, we have to, that is Jorginho wouldn't be in the team, but we have to find another player who's not a regista, who's a traditional DM to allow us a switch to a four at the back system and execute it perfectly. Because he's not a DM by any means. He's not
Mm.
defensively sound. Like you've established, he has what he offers to the team, which is very unique. He can help us control the tempo of the game. He can
Yeah.
help us dictate. Sometimes on his day, if he's well protected by a player who is defensively sound, like just N'Golo Kante, he can, be magnificent on the day. He can dictate even how the opponents play, force them to change the way they play. He is that good. But he is 30 now, right?
He's 30, yeah.
So, and at 30, I think that's where the problem comes in because you'd have to be an exceptional player. You'd have to be in the same class as Thiago Silva for the club to look beyond your age and offer you a long-term contract because Jorginho now still I think he's still he'd still believe he can get a long-term contract and I don't think he would take like a 2-year extension
Mm.
because the likes of Juventus would take him in a heartbeat. They would take him. Juventus have always is a team that traditionally plays with a register, which is Jorginho's the role he likes to play. If he plays that for Italy, and I think Juventus would take him in a heartbeat. So I don't know. He has just a year and a half left in his contract. Do you think the club will offer him a long-term contract? Because I don't see Jorginho accepting the 2-year extension.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be hard. I don't see him taking it. Like, if we're having problems with Rudiger and Christensen, who are playing, Rudiger is playing absolutely outstanding. Like, I don't see him extending his contract. I do see him like someone just said Juventus. Like, he fits in that system. Like eggs on toast. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
just walks into that team. Like, it's one for one. It's perfect position for him. So I do see Juventus going straight for him. But will they? Possibly. I mean, their midfield is kind of stacked right now, but they're always welcoming in new players, like no matter how good they are. So we'll have to find out in August. Like it's a tough one next year because he could be bowling out like nonstop. Maybe Chelsea. Maybe he may accept another 1 year contract because we won the league or something. So he wants to stay. But like he is the vice captain, and we mustn't forget that. So he has a big role to play as well in that, and that does play a favour that if you would stay more at Chelsea. So it depends, and it also depends if we get Tushimani, and then maybe if we get another midfielder, he might get rotated out. We'll have to see. Like at the moment, I do see him always as a starter. Obviously, for some games for his fitness, I would swap him out. But when he's fit and 100%, I see him as a starter for the big games. So we'll have to see him back in 2023.
Yeah, because the truth is, I don't see Jorginho. I don't look at Jorginho and see him. That is, I not see him as a starter. And also, if the age is the issue here for some people, we must remember his role. Pace isn't that is instrumental to the way
Mm.
he plays and to the role of a register. Pace isn't that important. It's your ability to slow down the game, up the tempo of the game and all that. Now, let's take some time, Matt, and compare him a bit with Billy Gilmour. But before we do that, let me ask you, off the top of your head, which of the two players or let me start by asking you, how do you think they differ? What do you think are the differences between Jorginho and Billy Gilmour?
It's a hard one because I think Billy Gilmour has kind of changed his style of play, but from what we've seen on him, when he was at Chelsea bit, and then I haven't watched much at Norwich at the moment, but once I did, is he progresses the ball a little bit more than Jorginho, but he doesn't play as defensive as him. So we can see Jorginho example like I see Jorginho going in for some big tackles, and then straight away he'll kind of sometimes he'll release it. Billy Gilmour, he may get it. He starts again more than Jorginho. Like he actually slows the ball down at times more than Jorginho. But then there's other times where he'll be playing like Kante. So it's so hard to dictate here Gilmour's ups and downs. But I think from the top of my head, what I can say is this in 3-4 words is that he's actually just a bit more fast paced.
So you say who's a bit more fast paced?
Billy Gilmour, yeah, it was kind of hard how I described it. I said Jorginho at times is fast paced, but overall Gilmour will be a bit more fast paced than Jorginho. But they pretty much play that
Yeah,
same role.
from
But
yeah, go ahead.
I said they pretty much play that same role. But I think So at times, Gilmour may be a bit more attacking at times. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, yeah, that's the striking difference. But one of the stark differences between them is this. To me, from my observation, I think Billy Gilmour progresses the ball more than Jorginho does, and I think he has a good eye for assists more than Jorginho. Also, he's a bit more physical than Jorginho. And then
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that game. Gilmour went head to head with Ronaldo and won against Manchester United, where everybody saw that on TV. So even though he's not that big, he can leap. He has a serious leap in him. So
Mm.
to me, I think he's a mashup of you could argue a regista and a defensive midfielder, and can be box to box if he wants to. Because he also, I've seen him, he reads the game very well. And for the games he played in the absence of Jorginho when he was still back at Chelsea, you could argue he did better than Jorginho has done at Chelsea. That is in terms of the way he played. And there's hardly a game that he played full 90 minutes for Chelsea that he didn't win man of the match. I can't really remember any, and that's because in 90% of the times he won man of the match. That's to show you
Mm.
how impactful Gilmour can be in a game. And if you're in the chat, let us know how you think of both players. What the things you think are that is the differences between the two players. If we'd like to see that from you, because this is designed. This is supposed to be an
I think
interactive show.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
say
You were
just
going to say
quickly as
something?
well. I think that we point out the points that Billy has this, Billy has that more than Jorginho. But at the end of the day, Jorginho is a way better player than Billy Gilmour. Like we cannot compare the players. Like Jorginho is
Here's
way
where
better
the
than
go
him.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say like we can hear see and talk about Gilmour and compare him. Like there's no doubt about that. But we can't be advantaging him more than Jorginho. It's the other way around. Jorginho has way more forwards than against for him. Like Jorginho is way. I would say Jorginho is way more talented than him. Still, he has potential. I think he's a great player, but maybe in the coming years. But right now, Jorginho is much better player than him.
Can you really tell me how is Jorginho better than Billy Gilmour?
I'll give you the point that if you put Gilmour on a team like this right now, I genuinely think we would fall apart right now because Gilmour, as much as he does his leadership at Norwich, he walks in this team. I don't see him doing it. I don't see him having the stable capability of performing the same qualities as he does in Norwich in a team like Chelsea. Possibly when he gets his mindset a bit older, when he hits 21, 22, he can fully progress his mindset and play in the game. Because when you play for someone like this, you play that register role in quotations that you got to have the leadership and you got to have that mindset of hang on, I'm in the center of this position. I'm in the center of pressure. I don't think he would handle the pressure well at Chelsea if he plays that register role because it is a big role. Like when you have like if you lose the ball, like that's it. They're going to take it and score it. So
Let me
I don't
ask you
think he's
this,
physically
man.
prepared for that yet.
You seem to deep down believe that Jorginho is a better player. If you pick Jorginho's team, do you think he wouldn't have the same issues as Billy
But
Gilmour?
you
The
cut out.
same
Say
issues that
again.
Billy Gilmour is having now? Because if you ask me, Billy Gilmour's issue at Norwich isn't down to his abilities. It's
Mm.
down to the kind of that is the crappy team they have over there. Because even Ronaldo will not be at his best if you slot him into that Norwich team. So yeah, I mean, actually, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, in games where one of those nonsense games that we see in Norwich play, people blame, call it saying Billy Gilmour is not a Chelsea standard. Even pick Didier Drogba and put him there, he will still not perform at his best. That's just where he is. They don't have a good enough team.
Mm.
I wouldn't blame. I wouldn't judge him for his performances at Norwich because he doesn't have good enough players around him, and a tree can never make a forest. Let's look at this comment on the screen. Then we'll scroll down. He says Gilmour may have gone a bit backwards in his development at Norwich. Get him back, says my logic, but will stay fourth, fifth choice for next season. Do you think that's the truth?
Yeah, I mean, I would point out the same thing that if we want a player at Chelsea, we want them to stand out in their own team and play the best in their own team despite their players around them. And I use Tuchemani as probably the best example. He has decent initial round, but he is a star there. He plays like Messi in his team because he plays that well, and he's playing a DM. out of all position. He's the best team. He plays like Messi in that point. I want someone like that at Chelsea. I'm not saying I don't want Billy Gilmour. I want Gilmour for sure, but I don't think he's mentally ready for that thing. He plays in that CDM role. He does great. He's the best player on that pitch, like no doubt about it. Like he kills anyone in Norwich. He's Norwich's best player. But when there's players around you, you also got to make sure you play to that standard as well. If you know what I'm saying, like you got to not turn out like it's hard to describe if I say the words turn out like Messi, but play as an individual player at times to progress yourself other than progressing the team around you. In the sense of we're picking these players that he's bad, he's bad, he's bad. We should be focusing that Gilmour's playing good. Look how good he's playing there. It's kind of hard how I'm explaining, but if you guys don't understand,
No,
I'm
no,
just
but
going to
I
say it.
understand what you're trying to explain there. Again, we're all entitled to our opinions, but you make a good argument on why you think Jorginho is better. For me, if I want to argue Jorginho is better at this point, I'd argue from the perspective of his experience. He's been there for a long time because the experience makes a huge difference. And Jorginho has expressed that he's a leader. He can lead a team. I haven't seen that leadership aspect of the game in Billy Gilmour. And like you mentioned, he has great potentials and he's capable of doing even better than Jorginho has done at Chelsea
Hmm.
because he's quicker, like and with this established other aspects that he can do. To me, that's my own opinion that he can do better than Jorginho. But that's by the way, he says Billy has better vision and pass execution. At least I have some people in the chat that are agreeing
I
with
disagree
me.
with the
And
vision. I disagree with the vision a little bit. Just
sorry,
because
sorry, go ahead.
I see Jorginho grab the ball and 3 seconds later be on the other side of the pitch. Like Gilmore has that fantastically, but when he does that, every time I've seen him, he has that great vision when he goes back. That's another point as well. He has that great vision where he'll get the ball and he'll be at the halfway line and he'll switch it to the other side on the left hand side. While Jorginho, he'll be at the halfway line and pop it, just behind the box or something. So I think they both have great vision, but I think attacking wise, I gotta say Jorginho has better vision, even though he's not a better attacker.
Really, honestly, you have a very strong opinion on Jorginho. Remember, I have to establish also that I love Jorginho. I like what he brings to the team. But for me, my personal opinion, I still think Gilmour has better. That is a better player and will do better in the Premier League than Jorginho has done.
Would you do
Given
a
that
one for
his,
one switch? Would you do a 1-for-1 switch, Gilmore for Jorginho, if you could now?
I think I would right now, given the players we have and given the situation right now. And if you look at, it's not like Jorginho is injured. It's not like he's been
Mm,
overplayed. If you look at things at Chelsea of late, you can see that Tuchel is beginning to drop him. He doesn't play him that much of late. And
mm,
it's if you look at those games he didn't play him, you could argue we did well in his
mm,
absence because even we're able to control the game in most of them. But I still argue we need him. Just pair him with Kante because whenever he's paired with
mm.
Kante, he does better because he has better protection. But in the absence of Kante, we have issues if it is just him and Kovacic. We lack, our defense usually lacks proper protection, but that's by the way we get to it. Billy has better, okay, we've read that. And Fairboy, welcome. This is the first time I'm seeing you in the chat on Chelsea Perspective. You've always gone back to watch previous shows, and I appreciate all your support. I think Gilmour too can be press resistant in terms of his dribbling and has pace up better than Jorginho. I think you and I can agree with this. He has more
Yeah,
pace than Jorginho. What do you think, Matt?
yeah, no, a stick has more pace than Jorginho. Like, I remember that video of Jorginho and the ref. Like, he's slow. Like, unfortunately, that's who he is. He's slow, but nah, for sure, Gilmore's way faster.
Yeah, I think. I think again for me, I'd also argue it's just experience that differentiate them right now. If without experience, I'd pick Gilmour over Jorginho. And also, I've mentioned, I have to be honest, Jorginho has exhibited more leadership ability than Gilmour. Maybe that's something that Gilmour will learn with time. Mikhail said Gilmour lacks physicality and will continue to lead of an vulnerability, same as J5 in single pivot. That's another great input there. What do you think about this comment, Matt?
Yeah, I think he likes a little bit physical. I'm not gonna lie. I think he's for his size and age and weight and all that. I think he's quite strong, but at the same point, he does get pushed off quite a bit. And even Jorginho, like he kind of gets pushed off a bit as well. Like they're both not physically attacked there. They're not that good at the attack, but continue to leave a vulnerability. Same as Jorginho in a single pivot. If we put them in a single pivot, I see them, both, how do I describe, like declining in that role. Like they won't be at their best, and I think that's probably another one of their weaknesses. Jorginho is pace. We could say Gilmour is physicality, but as you mentioned, like if he's got his good aerial, then we've got that in the bag there.
So if we're planning, we've been clamoring and calling for, you know, to switch to a back four or to at least alternate between back three and back four. And in most cases, when you play back four, you have a single pivot. If we're
Hmm.
planning doing that, if in the future, do you think it makes sense to keep any of them at the club?
I mean, we can play Jorginho in a single pivot, but again, yeah, he's does not play well. But I would 100% kick him because I think our aim, and I think my personal aim for Chelsea is to become like a city where we
Mm.
have a second team as our first team, not like we used to have. I mean, like we tried to have. Um, we had to start the season for 1 week or two. So where we'll have Tushimeni on the field and Jorginho on the bench. So like if Tushimeni is injured or something, then we got Jorginho. Like we don't need to worry. Like we don't need to get an under 16 skid to come on. Like we've got another good player there. So he's on low wages. His contract's not running out, and I don't see a reason why we should like get rid of him. He's not making mistakes. He's playing his game. Like as you said, like him not playing is us winning better. And I could use the same point as last season when Kante was injured for a couple of weeks, Kovacic was injured. We're still playing well. Like our midfield is good. Like we've got a great midfield. Like I don't see us needing to sell or get rid of any of them at all because we've got a very balanced midfield, and people like to use the excuse to back the attacks that our midfield is our problem, and our midfield is probably our only strong point right now. It's stable.
Yeah, I think it is, and it's this is it, oh, it's a difficult one to say. What do we do with these players if we're really planning to switch to a back four and also play a single pivot? I know Stav in the chat here has always argued that we should play with a single pivot and then have more player in the attacking area.
Mm.
But I think it's very difficult. I don't see Tuchel doing that more often. I think we've gotten used to playing with two double pivots,
Mm.
and I think it's important to mix it up. Really, it's not always good to have two players who are not defensively sound because when it is like that, then we have issues protecting our defense, and that we saw how that is it led to that is to string that stretch of games where we struggled defensively, and that was because they didn't have proper protection in the midfield. Opponents were always coming at us, and that exposed our defense. So, Matt, the question for you is, can we do without mixing it up, without having a player who's able to help us control the game and the other player who's defensively sound? Because we've learned over time that we need to balance it that way. What do you think?
Well, we can play it, and you're talking about if we play in a single pivot.
Sorry, what did you say?
Are you saying that when we play this in a single pivot, defensively
Mhm.
sound and composed? If we do that, if that's why I'm saying Tushman would be a fantastic option because I think Tushman can do everything, defensively sound, composed, everything. So it's going to be hard for us if we go to a single pivot, having Jorginho, Gilmour, and someone like Tushmeni. But if we've got Tushmeni who's an all rounder, I don't see Gilmour playing a defensively sound as a single pivot. Again, he plays at the start of the season. He played that from Norwich. I don't know about now. I don't know if they still play their single pivot right now, but I have to see where it goes because it's actually very hard for me to dictate Jorginho in a single pivot. If you've maybe got Kante or maybe even Tushimenia up the front, like it could change if when we hit August, maybe we get new sim players and he can change it. But I don't see him playing in a single pivot being that bad as people think. I think it's like how we think Rudiger in the back four. Like it's not the worst we can handle it, but his strengths are when he plays in the back three and is when in the back five.
Yeah, I think that's a great input right there, Matt. Can you handle this? Can you address this comment here on the screen? Let me just quickly
Mm.
create a poll in the chat for the people in the chat.
Yeah, any doubts Gilmour cannot handle pressure stuff. Or, I mean, if you've ever played football, you're playing in a lower team where you've got more confidence because you're the player standing out. When you come in a bigger team and you're a lower player, you're not going to be standing out, so you're not going to have that confidence to be a standout player. So it just makes sense like that's how football works. I'll repeat myself again where what I am saying is that him playing in a very low team like Norwich and him being a star is obviously going to give him so much more confidence. Whereas he comes to a big team like Chelsea and he's a small player, he's not going to have that same confidence yet.
I, no, I think I disagree with you there, Matt. Listen, I know you were aware of this, but I know you're very a very strong. You're very strong. That is, your opinions are very very strong, and you always back up your argument with some points that it's hard to argue against. But this one, Billy Gilmour, in all the games, I'm repeating myself again. In all the games that he's played for Chelsea, about 90% of them or 80% of them at least. Correct me if I'm wrong, people in the chat. He's won man of the match in nearly all of them, and almost all of them are big games. Those ones he won man of the match against Liverpool, and that was a big game against Manchester City.
Yeah,
That was a big game. So I don't think. Again, I'm starting to sound like a broken record. Gilmour's situation at Norwich doesn't help his case. But I think he's struggling there because they don't have the team. It's as simple as that.
But I think if you put him in the team like now, like what I'm saying is, before when he was socially sound in it, where he grew up in that team. I'm not saying that he's not going to have the confidence, but I'm saying when you throw him in a team where we've got already structured people, and I agree with your point where you said he came in, he had that man of the match, but he's been on a bit of a decline now when he's been at Norwich. So I don't see him come back and jumping in. Well, from a normal player will come in. A normal player, I can't even speak. What I repeated before would be from the state of a normal player. Gilmour, it could
Mm.
be different, but I don't see Gilmour coming and having that same confidence yet. I see him progressing and having that same time that we give players.
That's a sensible argument. If he comes back, I think it will take time for him to be reintegrated into the team again. Because I argued before that he shouldn't have left for on loan for Norwich City, but I
Yeah,
don't think it was his decision. And if you're in the chat, let me know who you think that is whose decision it was for Billy Gilmour to
it was
go on loan to Norwich
Tuchel.
City, because the truth is he already had some time. He gained ground on the Thomas Tuchel. Tuchel started to trust him because he's played him in two games, two big games. So I think what he was looking for, if you ask me, I'd say probably it was his decision to go on loan to Norwich City because he was looking for game time, given that the World Cup year is near. He wants to be playing day in, day out, and I don't think it's worked out well because if he has been around, I think there wouldn't have been the need to go for Saul Niguez because I think he'd do better for us than Saul has done. Maybe in that double six position or maybe not in an advanced position because I know Saul can also play in an advanced position. Let us know whose decision it was for Billy Gilmour to go on loan because I don't think that it was a good idea at all. As we can see the situation he's in right now, can see Gilmour playing the DM role in the future. Just a thought. I think he
Well, for
can.
sure.
Yeah, I think he can.
He's
Yeah.
DM.
I don't. Chelsea will play Billy Gilmour anytime soon. It's a very important position, and if you go for Tremaine for 40 million, Billy will be on loan to another. Yeah, I think that will happen if eventually the club signs Tremaine, and we still have Ruben Loftus-Cheek at the club. We still have Kovacic. Who's next? Kante. I don't think they will bring him back. I think he's broken that. Had he stayed, I think he'd get a chance to stay. But again, he wanted to play, so that led to him going on loan to Norwich. It's hard to compare Gilmour at Chelsea. Yeah, very. You should let him develop like Broja, and then slowly bed him in. Just because he's super talented doesn't mean he is ready. That's just my opinion. No, that's a good input there, Herbert. It's no joke. That's a good point there. Just because he's super talented doesn't mean he's ready. But he was ready before he left for Norwich City. Would you say that, Matt?
He was what? Sorry, he was what?
He was ready before he
Oh
left
yeah.
to Norwich City, but now you can't argue he's ready anymore.
I mean, he could have stayed, and I said I was one who wanted him to stay. I didn't want him to go out, but he's ready to come back in now. Will it be the same style? I don't know. It's gonna be hard. How would he fit in?
Yeah, yeah. I think I hope to see him. But let's look at the statistics here, and maybe that will help us see something. Let me know if you can see the screen, Matt. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's
Okay. At Norwich, at
or
Jorginho has
maybe zoom in
played.
a bit.
Okay,
Control
zoom in a
plus a
bit. Okay,
bit.
I'll do that. Can you see it
Yeah,
now?
that's better. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
Okay. Jorginho has played, and this is for this season.
Yeah.
Jorginho has played 36 games, 9 goals, all of which are penalties. We know that. 1 assist, minutes played 2,316. Let's not go through those ones. While Billy Gilmour has played 25 matches and he has 2 assists, and this is an area, the assist aspect of the game is an area that's very important to me. What do you think about that statistics on the screen?
I mean, yeah, they're both playing defensive roles. Looking at the goals first, I don't see us scoring 999 penalties if Jorginho didn't take it. Like again, that's another missed role we missed. Like his penalty, like yeah, it's a penalty, but he hasn't missed. Like you can't. My God, I can't speak today. You can't not look at the stat and like just push it over your head. Like it's 9. He's got 9 penalties out of 9 he's taken. Like that's an amazing stat, and we must forget that stat. If we switch him out with Gilmore, who's going to take our penalties? Havertz, where he's not that good, or Jorginho's the perfect penalty taker. He's the best penalty taker in the world. Like it's a little thing, and it's an easy thing, but again, it's a simple thing that he does so perfectly, and people don't seem to underestimate how hard it is.
No, that's actually not an easy task. It's one of the most difficult tasks at Chelsea to be have the mantle as the penalty taker. The pressure can be immense. It's not that simple. But I get your argument. But I think why at the same time you could argue Jorginho has been quite unlucky in terms of assists because he creates some good chances, but those he creates the chances for don't put them away. Let's see if there's any other interesting comment there that we can look at and continue. This one says Chelsea haven't found a midfielder like Essien, Makalele, or Mikel. Need a beast of a player at CDM. And also, we haven't found a player like Fabregas since he left us. That guy has such a
Tchouaméni's coming.
delicious, pass. What do you have to say about this comment?
Oh no, I was gonna say Tchouaméni is coming to fix that Fabregas position. Hopefully,
Is it that good? Does he have that kind of pass in
I
him?
really think. I don't think it's as good as Fabregas for now, but I really think he's gonna be a perfect fit for Chelsea. And I remember Amir telling me this back in July, and I was like, he's looking. And then I watched him play, and I watched his stats and his highlights, and him playing at games, and I was like, this guy's unbelievable. And now he's even better. He's 2 times better, and he's progressed like tremendously in like 6 months. So I can't wait to have him if he
Hmm.
comes in because he's really going to change the game.
Hmm. If you're in the chat, if you haven't, please take some time, smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Or if you're watching, please do so. I find out that more people that watch this channel haven't subscribed. Only a few, about 46% of my viewers are subscribed. But please, if you haven't, do subscribe to help the channel grow. Gilmour should have been loaned to Palace. They are a better team than Norwich. I think the reason he went to Norwich was that we thought maybe that was where we see a space for him. Because at Palace would mean he'll be fighting for places
Yeah.
with one of our own also. So we thought that space for him at Norwich, and actually we thought that was going to be the best loan option for him. He ended up not being the same. I think the manager did they change manager?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the former manager
Might
didn't
have Dean
trust him. It
Smith.
doesn't look like he trusted them at all. And again, it's a very difficult situation. I hope that changes because he's such a talent. He wanted to go on loan. Norwich was Tuchel's choice as Norwich managed. Oh, had worked with Tuchel, then it ended up being a bad decision. I'm not happy to hear that. It's annoying, really. If Everton doesn't buy Donny Lampard, can it get him? He can, yeah, yeah. But that's Lampard. I wish him well. I could see him play well. Lamps, okay, yeah. I think Lampard could take him. What do you think? Because he likes him.
Of course, Lampard loves Gilmour, and I wouldn't mind seeing him take him because I think out of every coach in the league, I probably see Lampard as the one I trust more. Surprisingly, to probably progress Billy Gilmour to his capabilities, but looking over to now, I would say they're worse than Norwich right now. They're absolutely shocking, and they got a good team. So I don't know. I have to say, I would rather him. I don't mind him being at Norwich. As I said, like I don't mind players being at these bad teams because it can really show how good they can progress as an individual by themselves. We kind of call it how they could be a Messi. In translation, how they can become a super individual, completing the team by themselves. And if he hasn't done that, like it's not a task that needs to be completed. But if that task was completed, that would show how good of a player he really is.
Yeah, so Matt, I'm saying, see this comment here. I think it's addressed to you. What do you have to say? Because you sounded as if Jorginho's
Mm.
penalty makes him indispensable at Chelsea.
No, I think
What do you have to say?
I think that's a major factor, but again, like it's not the big factor. Like again, I'll say this amazing stat that it's so hard to have, but people would decline it and make it as a stat that doesn't really matter. Like that's one out of the nine stuff he does. He's a penalty scorer. Like again, you just said there's the pressure, there's this that. You know, we've had so many people miss penalties over the years. So him coming in was the fixeroo, and he fixed it. So. As I said, yeah, if he just scored penalties, I wouldn't take him. But like that's one factor of it. You know, and then the second
Yeah,
factor is this,
people
second
in the
factor is
chat
that.
are
So
really they are really fighting you.
people,
Still,
they,
still just says yeah that sucks as an excuse. So yeah, but
I
no,
mean,
but which is everybody we're all
I
entitled
don't
to our
understand.
opinion. Yeah, go
I don't
ahead.
understand why it's like hard to understand the fact that he scores penalties for us. Like, name me another player who does that in, who just individually scores penalties by himself and doesn't miss. Like, again, that's not one factor. But we're not keeping him just to score penalties. We're keeping him for 9, 10 different reasons. But there's always one point to pick at him because he's either slow or he's this, he's that. There's just an excuse towards him. Like, he's on low
No, no,
wages.
but
He's a vice captain. No,
listen,
no,
go ahead, go ahead.
I'll say he's a vice captain. He's on low wages. His penalties aren't easy, but there's so many other things that he brings to the team. But we always try to focus on the negatives for Jorginho rather than the positive. That's why I said he's overhated in the community.
He is to some measure overheaded, and that was a time it was disgusting. At the time, I think that threat too. Also, I wouldn't go to that extent. And like I told you, you already know I love Chichinho. I understand what he brings to the team. But let me ask you this question based on what the staff said here. Would you keep Chichinho just for the sole reason that he's a good penalty taker? Would
Uh,
you?
nah, so I wouldn't just give him if he just does penalties, but that's not all he does. Again, that's probably 20-30% of what he does. And then we've got the other 70% of what else he does. Like, it's just a big factor. Like, we have Lukaku here to score goals, but he's not doing that. Like, that's why we're complaining about him. But Jorginho, he's not doing anything wrong.
Okay, overall, now that's a good way to put it. I think it's clear. I think you can agree that things are beginning to change in the way we play. I think Toko is beginning to be less reliant on Jorginho, possibly
Mm.
because of his deficiencies in terms of protecting the defense. Because sometimes when you press Jorginho, when we play against teams that play aggressively,
Yeah.
teams that target him, he struggles to play. Do you see a future for him at Chelsea? Not minding his age, let's assume he's 29. But given the situation of things right now, what I just explained, do you see a future for him
Mm.
at Chelsea?
Yeah, I'll just quickly on like elaborate that he isn't being played as well because our attack sucks. Like our attack shit. So we need more midfielder attackers to play that. That's why we played, Kovacic, Kante, and Mount sometimes that position because we need more attackers. Saul came on from because Jorginho's not an attacking player. Like he's a DM. So that's why he hasn't been playing because our attack shit. But again, there's other reasons that we can do with him now. How the midfielders develop, which is a good thing. We shouldn't I'll be relying on Jorginho. As I said, I want a Manchester City team. I want a team where we can have Kante, Kovacic, and then sub on a player who matches their levels even better. So that's good.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't think he has. I don't. Unfortunately, the way things are, I don't think he has a future at Chelsea, given that he has just a year and a half left on his contract. Because if the club really wants to keep him, I know Matt, you agree they'd be on the table with this representative right now, and I think if Pep, maybe if he puts an ego aside, I think if he gets a chance to take him even at 30, he will take him because that is his type of player. I think he will be a good replacement for what's the Brazilian international?
Rafinha?
I've forgotten his name. That plays the DM role for them. I think hopefully he finds a club, but I'd rather him go to Juventus because if he joins Manchester City, they'll become a very, very scary team. I know Pep will find the best way to use him. He had the reason he had in mind when he wanted to sign him in the first place. Take Kante out, yet team, yeah, we will lose. That's a great one. Oh yeah, sure. In the beat, let me just go through the comment. If Gallagher returns next season, where does he play? Thank you. Good one for you, Matt. I don't even know how to answer this one. I honestly wouldn't know how to answer this question. Okay, now I think we can say we've talked about. Let me ask this question before we switch to this one, so we can round off the Jorginho Gilmour segment and move on. Now, do you think Gilmour, should we continue to rely on the profile player because they're similar to some measure, but they differ in a lot of other aspects? Do you think Gilmour can effectively replace Jorginho for us if we decide to sell Jorginho and decide, okay, we still need a player that plays like that? Look, for people in the chat, let us know if you think Billy Gilmour can effectively execute the Jorginho role should we decide to let Jorginho go.
I think if Tchouaméni is not in this team, yes, I think Gilmour can replace Jorginho, but I would say Tchouaméni can replace Jorginho's role much better. But again, I'll repeat myself, Gilmour can replace Jorginho.
Gilmour can, yeah. Okay, now you say can't or can?
Can.
Okay, yeah, I think he can too. I think he's a you could say, like I've said before, he's a mashup of a defensive midfielder and also a regista. I think he will execute that role very well. But I'm seeing this, unfortunately, I think Chelsea are beginning to move away from the requiring a player that play like a regista. Hopefully, maybe if Gilmour can execute that role as this Italian also does for PSG, maybe he will get a chance. I think he's capable of executing the role that way. So, Matt, for the poll we put out asking who is a better player, you can say the disparity isn't that much. 56% says Jorginho is a better player, while 44% says Billy Gilmour is a better player. So it's pretty much balanced if you ask me. So now the Queen herself, okay, now I think we're done with that Jorginho Gilmour comparison. Now, Matt, start with this one, and then we can talk about whatever we have next.
If Gallagher returns, where does he play? 6-8. I would say an 8. I think that's where we'll play the best. If we play a 4, because in a 3 obviously it won't work as well. But I would play him as an 8 if we have someone like Kante behind him, because I think he is an attacker. He's an attacking midfielder, and he's a really highly attacking midfielder. And the goals that he scores is like a striker. So I would put him as close to the striker position as possible.
If you're in the chat, can you let us know whether you think Gallagher can play as a number 6, as a number 8, or on the flanks? Let us know what you think. And I'd like to say hello to CFC for him. Great channel, great individual. He's become a brother. And please go check out CFC for him. It's a great channel. Also, don't forget to go check out CFC Chats. That's Matt's on a channel. Great channel. They've had some big names as guests there. They have some reaction videos, short videos, streams. Also, they also sometimes do watch-alongs, just like CFC Fahim does also. Um, so, Matt, in a bit, I'll let you talk more about CFC chat, even before we get to the end of the show. So, let me see what people in the chat are saying about Gallagher's role. Okay, let me take it one by one. Take Kante out yet. I've seen that. He could go to Palace. You cannot have two loanees from the same club in EPL. Oh, he could not. Okay, now I get it. Makes sense. If Gallagher returns next season, we've seen that question. Yes, do subscribe. Option counts on this channel. So if haven't, pretty please do. Thank you, Queen. The Queen herself speaks. Please listen to her. Graham Roberts scored 14 penalties in one season, was a bit of centre half. Matt, you're still in trouble. That's still at you. Gallagher is another player
who's
really good.
Jorginho is the CDM. Jorginho is a defensive midfielder. He's on 9, so like.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you're saying. Like, it's just because he's saying people who score penalties are great players. Like, yeah, that's true.
How about this comment here about Gallagher? Do you think it's possible he's never playing in Chelsea anytime soon?
I want him as soon as possible. I want him to play and to start. I want him to progress first. I wouldn't say we bring him next season. I say season after. But I don't see him coming in next season. No.
You don't see him coming in?
No. Because
but rumors sound as if Tuchel wants him back immediately. How many goals does he have now? He has more goals than our attackers, actually.
He's a fantastic player. If we can bring him back, I'll bring him back, no doubt. But it would be probably better to bring him back where he would be starting. I want him to be starting on that pitch. So I want to get a Barkley, Loftus, Saul. Then we can get him in. If we don't get rid of any of these players, he's not going to come in. But if we get rid of him, he'll come in. We'll get Tuchemeni in. That's it. We only need 2 more midfielders coming in. Perfect.
I do think he will come back, because if you leave him too long, then you will see clubs coming for him. And he's ambitious. He wants to come back. And I think he did say something to who was it that interviewed him? He said, "Make sure you tell Chelsea that my aim is to play for the club. If you leave it too long, he might start to see his future somewhere else, and that's a risk. And you can't force him to renew. And before you know it, he will run down his contract and leave on a free." So I think he comes back to Chelsea, because how many goals this season? He's scored more goals than all our attackers combined, hasn't he? If you're in the chat, please let us know if you know how many goals Conor Gallagher have scored this season. J5 in. Yeah, I know, Mikhail, you always start a rebellion if you ask me. Sorry, what did you say?
8 goals.
8 goals this season in the Premier League. That's more than all our attackers combined. So I think he's done enough to come back to Chelsea, and any other player can leave for all I care. Because think about it, if you see his games, it's not like his goals are all against smaller teams. He scored a beauty against Manchester City. And what I like the most about Conor Gallagher is his positioning. You always find him, he's like Christian Pulisic. If you give him the free role, if you give him the independence to roam around in the pitch, whenever his team gets to the box, he's always available in the right position actually to connect with the ball. So I think he's done enough to come back and slot in perfectly. We don't need to leave him out there that long. It's a risk for me. Love all Chelsea players, we do. And Mikhail says, but if we can cash a player out this summer, why not? And who are you talking about? Not sure. Hopefully Mikhail is not starting a fight. You're talking about who?
It's talking about like if we can cash out any player, and then we can cash out Jorginho for someone else. Why not?
If we can cash out Jorginho, I'd take it, because it doesn't look like Tuchel values him that much. I know he will always find games where he can play him, and he will be effective for us. Let's go through this and switch to the topic you have, man. Big up to you, Ty Talks. How are you doing, brother? And Matt is also saying hello to you. We have yes in progressive context. Okay, I think this is a conversation between them in the chat there. Let me see if I find anything. Okay, summer well, so J5 this summer. What's a good value for him? Okay, you go ahead, Matt. A year and a half left on his contract.
hard to put a price on him, honestly, because he could be worth 25 mil, 30 mil cash. But like, if we're talking about a swap for a player, like I don't know, but I would probably value him around 40 mil. To be fair with you,
A year and a half left in his contract. That's not going to happen. Who do you
I
think
think
will
it
pay
happen.
that much money?
Juventus will pay it for sure.
And by
It's not
summer,
a
it
Euro
will
to
be
his name.
less. It will be much more
Yeah,
like
it's true.
12
No, I
months or
forgot about
so
his
left on his
contract.
contract.
Yeah. His contract probably 25 then 30. I still
Around
think
that,
it'll be a
even
high
less.
amount. No, I think it'll be a high amount because there's people like Juventus who would pay money just because they're just stupid and they want a midfielder like him. Like they just want to get that bucket list filled. So I think there'll be teams that buy him, but again, no one's gonna buy him. Like there'll be no one who buys him for sure. No one's gonna buy him. But like
Hmm.
if it's about real, like if I see anyone, it'll be Juventus who can probably pay 35, 25.
Can you address this one here? And before I let you guys say, really, Gilmour will be Kante's backup, possibly. Gallagher
Mm.
will be Mount support. I'd say, I think, I'd rephrase this for you, Star. You're my friend and I love you, but this is how I will rephrase it. Gallagher will fight for places with Mount, if you ask me, if you want to put it
Yeah.
that way, because I think he's done better, far better than Mount this season. This is not just an eye test thing. We have the statistics out there. He's been brilliant. He has that Mount energy, but I think he's cool-headed more than Mount is usually is in front of goal. In he shoots with more papers than Mount does. Mount sometimes can shoot so much in a hurry that you'll be going, "What's happening here?" I like them both, but I think he will get us more goals than Mount does. If anybody is close to getting goals like from the midfield, like Frank Lampard did, I think it would be Conor Gallagher. What do you think, Matt?
I think Gallagher's coming to replace Mount, and Gilmour, if he does come, will possibly sit on the bench because I don't see him come. I'll obviously be playing, but I won't see him being a starter if we bring in other players. If we bring him in this season, that's why I don't want Gilmour coming at least until he's 22. To be fair with you, um, even though we swap out anyone with nothing, I don't want Gilmour this season. I don't want him at all this season. I want him probably season after when Jorginho leaves or when someone else leaves. But this season ain't gonna happen.
I think that pretty much it ain't gonna happen this season because of the situation at Norwich City. Had it been like a Crystal Palace, that was the club you mentioned, right? I think he'd be
Mhm.
ready to come
Oh
back and maybe replace
yeah,
Jorginho, but I think the situation just ruined the whole thing. He cannot come back in and replace Jorginho. That's not possible. And I think this echoes your argument about Gallagher. There's more an
yeah,
eight,
very
but
versatile.
can be coached to play. I don't want anybody to try to coach him to play six. That can ruin players, especially at
Yeah,
the
for
young
sure.
age. Let him continue as a number eight. Specialize in that position. You know, I think that versatility, while it makes a player a great tool in the hands of a coach, it can be detrimental to the development of that player, especially players at the age of Conor Gallagher. You need to stick them in a single position, play them there, let them specialize in that position first. As they gain experience, they can, you alternate between positions, close by positions, and not like from at number eight to a deep lion midfielder. I think it is not okay for me. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put him in a six. I agree with the point that you're saying that they ruin the players. I don't want him to get the defensive mindset. We've got too many six issues, not a solid six, but I want him to go for the more attacking role because that's what he's been doing. Keep doing it.
Okay, let's quickly look at this. Serbia says I'd give money for Barkley to go. Um, remember, Saul and Barkley will be gone. It sounds easy, but why didn't they leave last season and then terminate Barkley's contract? Is this a better option, you think?
Yeah, honestly, whatever's the best option. I don't care if no money, whatever. Just get rid of him. I'm
You
sick
don't
of him
care
in the club.
anymore. Okay,
Yeah,
Gilmour is proved capable to play for Chelsea. Okay, yep, he has, but now he's in a peculiar situation. Gallagher scored more goals than the players currently
mm,
at the club. Proves how poor the attack has been. Yeah, no, proves to me. I get your point, bro. But the truth is, it proves how good the kid is. Let's not, take anything away from him. ZH7 stays forever. Gallagher has done good in each loan spell. Swansea, Charlton, and now Palace. He deserves a chance. I think he will get a chance. Also, Matt, bring out any topic you have so we can talk about it and move on before we round off.
Yeah, we'll finish it if you want. As we go on to Hazard. Hazard is rumored to be coming back on loan to Chelsea, and I think I've had some mixed reactions on my point, in where I'm very happy if he comes back on this point, but I think it's kind of
Hmm.
shameless, to be fair with you, because I was very upset when he left back in 2018, and I think he left at the wrong time. He was in his prime, he was bowling out, he was winning trophies, but it was his dream to go play for Madrid. Fair enough. He goes. Obviously, the worst player at Madrid. He declined. He's played horrible, injured, rubbish. All this rubbish happened to him. Why would we bring him back now when he's on his decline? He's declined tremendously, and we're kind of in the shameless feeling sorry for him that we've got to bring him back. As I said, I still want him back, but I think it's quite shameless what we're doing. Like, I wouldn't prioritize him because he left for a reason. When he's in his downs, he wants to come back. Like, I don't see how that works. I think there's better players that we could possibly get, maybe some youngsters. But again, I'm not a big fan of him coming. Sorry, I am a very big fan of him coming, but I think it's quite shameless and it's quite unpredicted why we're doing that.
Okay. Again, I'd like to know Matthew Lee Benjamin. Unfortunately, we've gone beyond that segment. You said Jorginho is actually
Bring him
underrated,
back.
has played many good forward passes, but our attackers' decision making is poor time and
Yeah,
time again. I agree with you on that
I
comment.
think that's a great
That
point.
comment. Yeah.
Where to
I
the
think he's
point,
been. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was quickly said to where the point where we blame the midfield when he does put their decisions there, but unfortunately, it's our attack. It's the same story with our midfielder, but people seem to blame him on not having a creative mindset.
Yeah, I think he's been quite unfortunate in terms of assists, even from the era of Mauricio Sarri, where he created some chances, some good chances, but we had our attackers didn't put them away. He's been quite unlucky. I think, yes, he's so underrated. Most people don't really understand what he does for the team. Most people underrate his passing ability. I think he's a good passer of the ball. And the truth is, he's done it better than he's done under Mauricio Sarri. Under Thomas Tuchel, I think he's improved defensively. He's also improved in terms of the physical aspect of the game. And Matthew Lee Benjamin, welcome to the channel. And if you haven't, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Now, we're talking about Eden Hazard coming back to Chelsea. And Matt, you said you're a big fan of him coming back, but you're not sure. You said it's shameless. That's the way you put it, right?
Yeah, and also we've just brought back Lukaku, and look how bloody horrible he's done. Like, we gotta wake up and like think that a lot of the fans are living in their fantasy. Like, look how well he done for us. I mean, he's a legend. He's a legend at Chelsea. But when he's declining, he's in his worst state of his career. Why would we bring him back? I don't
Okay, let me
understand that. Like,
ask
we
you
really
this. Why do you think, let's start from this. Why do you think he left then?
he left because he wanted to. He wasn't living in the realization where he was thinking with too much of his head than his heart. His heart was telling him he's playing well, he's gonna have a great career, he's
Wow,
winning
I
trophies,
think
he's
that's a
this.
very fine way to put it. He was thinking more with his head than his heart, right?
Because when he was going to Madrid, he wanted to follow his dream, right? He wanted to follow his fantasy. His fantasy is a dream. It's a dream's not real. Your realistic is you're playing well for Chelsea. Yes, you want to play for Madrid. You can go to Madrid. But you got to accept the consequences for going to Madrid, and he has to accept that he's playing bad. That we shouldn't accept him if he's playing bad. Like, it doesn't. There's no second chances in football. Like, we've given that second chance to Lukaku, and look how he's played there. We have to live in the realization of this world where he should have stayed. He messed up. That's his fault. I'm never gonna forgive him for that. If he comes back, I don't mind him leaving. I don't care that he left. Like, that's his decision. But he shouldn't be wanting to come back now when he's playing in the worst state of his career.
Here's where, just one second, let me do this. Here's where I disagree with you on that. I understand your argument that we shouldn't bring him back. Look at that is you're looking at Lukaku's case while you talk about it. The truth is, we've had legend like Didi Drogba come back and also win a trophy with us.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's a good sign for me. He did well before he left, but Lukaku didn't do well at Chelsea before he left Chelsea. So maybe you can take that is let that give you confidence that because Didier Drogba did well before he left Chelsea, he came back and he did well again.
Yeah.
So and he has scored more goals.
I
So
could say
if
the point that I could just quickly say that the point that Lukaku is
yes,
playing fantastically into Milan, but we
mhm.
bring back Hazard, who's not playing well at all. Real Madrid. He's the worst player on that team.
Here's the thing, Matt. Let's. I think he would do well if he comes back, and I'll tell you why. But can we switch to quickly? Why do you think he's struggling at Madrid?
It's just him. He doesn't want to win. I feel like it's his mindset. He's just getting injured, and then we don't want someone like Dembele who's getting injured, but want someone like Hazard because he's a club legend. And I understand that people's fan towards. I'm a massive fan of Hazard. Like that's the reason I started following Chelsea. Like I want him back. Like again, I'm thinking with my head, I want him back. I want him back. But when you got to think in the realistic standpoint of football and how it affects Chelsea, you got to think, hang on, this may not be the best option because him at Madrid, he's lost his fitness. He's lost his style. He's lost everything. It's like unfortunately he's lost it all. Now he has to restart. Can he have that restart at Chelsea? Possibly, but would we take that risk? He's on high wages. If he comes on loan, possibly they'll pay half of it. But it's nothing to lose if he comes on. I'm not saying it's going to be a bad decision, but I'm saying that there will be consequences when he comes.
There will there will be consequences to a certain measure, but I don't see Hazard in the category of players like Ronaldo, who before he came back, I was arguing. I think Herbert here in the chat will be my witness. I argued that Ronaldo coming back to United will actually create more problems to them for them that he can solve. Whether they agree or not, I think he
Yeah.
has in the dressing room, even though it's not clear what's happening. He basically is arguing with the manager on trying to tell the manager how he wants the team to play. But I don't think Hazard is that type of player. And the whole thing, can he bring his career back on track if he comes back to Chelsea? I think, yes, that's because Chelsea is home for him. He left on a good note. And before he left, he was actually saying, if it doesn't work out, I'll stay. White will look good on me, but blue also looks good on me. I think something like that. I can't remember how he phrased it exactly. The truth is, Chelsea is home for Hazard. And as human, whenever you're going through a difficult time, if it's a mental thing like you mentioned, if he comes back to Chelsea, I think he will be fine. And I think he will be great for us. And I think he will help us solve the Lukaku issues. Because, again, you have to remember, Hazard isn't a selfish player. He likes to create. Even he said it. He likes to create chances for his teammates more than he likes to score in most cases. I think coaches are the ones that are asking him to be a little more selfish so that he can win the Ballon d'Or. But that's not him. I think if he comes back, he will be great for us. I don't think he will create any problems for us. I think he's loved at the club. Even those that are calling for us not to bring him back, if he comes back, I think everyone will support him. What do you think about my argument that Chelsea is home for Eden Hazard? Don't you think that will make a huge difference?
Oh no, for sure. Like Chelsea's definitely home for Hazard, but if we're thinking when he comes on that pitch, like he doesn't play games at Real Madrid because he's shit. That's that's uncomfortable truth is that he's unfortunately shit. So we can bring him back. As I said, I wouldn't mind to bring him back, but when the fans are saying let's not bring Dembele, let's not bring this player because of injuries, but he has injury problems as well. Like we mustn't forget he's a player too. Hasn't played in his prime for 3 years. He hasn't even played a consecutive match for 3 years.
But
He's
and let
unfortunate.
me argue this. It's not his fault. I
It
think
is his fault.
one of the
He's gotten
biggest
injured,
reasons, if
and
you ask me, one of the biggest, you know why I'm laughing, right? You saw the comment on the screen.
yeah. So
Listen, I think the biggest problem there is is that the treatment he gets. They sign him as a Galactico, and usually Galacticos get their way in terms of taking penalties and all that. But the moment he came, I don't think they offered him that. They didn't show him that much love.
because they treated him
He
as a
did, yeah,
player.
exactly. He
Like
didn't
they treat
feel
him as an even player.
important.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Exactly.
the
He
mistake he
didn't feel.
made. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So that
he should have knew that. I remember I said that he's not going to feel the same, and that's the same thing with Billy Gilmour. It's the same thing that when he plays in a lower team and he stands out, he's much more competed. He's much more dominated in that team. But when he goes to a higher team like Madrid, he's not going to be considered the same. And that's the same thing with Gilmour. But let's not talk Gilmour. Keep going about thingy.
and this statement here from Tide Talks, you remember that, right? Hazard
Is if
said in
he's
his defense,
yeah.
he said he would come back before his poor performance. Yeah,
What
I
are
think
we,
he
a
loves
charity? But
Chelsea through and through.
Christian, this isn't a charity. We're not going to take him back when he's on a poor performance. Like he has to be on a high performance for us to accept him back.
That's what we do for our legend. The guy left on a
Of
good
course, yeah, I
note,
wouldn't. Yeah,
and you
that's a
remember he didn't
fantastic
force
move.
the move. He did not force the move. You remember that, right? He didn't force it, and had he
He
fallen
agreed to
through,
it though.
I do think he stayed happily and accept whatever Chelsea gives him. Don't you
Mm.
think? And that's probably why Chelsea are going for him. If rumors are true, Chelsea are going for him because he has a good relationship with the club's hierarchy, with the fans, and because he did not force the move.
Yeah,
And we
he
made a
agreed
lot
to
of
it,
money from
but
his
he didn't
sale.
force it. Yeah. But no, like I'll reframe myself to the point that I think people are getting confused. That I said that I wouldn't buy him. I wouldn't get him at Chelsea. I wouldn't 100% buy him. Loan him, I wouldn't mind, but we got to look at the consequences. And I was stating how he left is a bad decision, how he's played bad at Madrid, and the consequences of that if he comes to
Mm.
Chelsea. If he comes, I'm going to support him 100%. I love Hazard. Like, as I said, if I'm thinking with my head, like, get him in this team, I can't wait to see him on that team sheet, give him that number 10, but my heart's saying that when he comes, he's not going to be the same. You know, if we've signed Lukaku, we've just seen from previous experience, Lukaku just got signed. He's come here. He's not performing well. Like that's a little factor. That's some evidence that we've seen. Again, what
Let
I'm
me counter
saying,
argue this with you.
go on.
If the rumors are true, Hazard is
Mm,
coming on loan. Hazard did well for us before he left. There's a stark
mm.
difference. That is
But
a
it doesn't matter
staggering difference
before.
between his
It's what
case and
now though.
Lukaku's case. Sorry,
But what's happening? What's happening now? Like he hasn't played a consecutive game for 3 years.
because they
what's
want
happening to
him
him
to
now?
go. They want him
Yeah.
off
So if
their
he comes
books.
back, he's not going to perform instantly. That's the
No,
thing.
he
I don't
will.
think he'll
It
perform
will
enough.
take time. It will take time. Maybe not immediately. Listen, you know he hasn't played for a while because they want him off their
Definitely.
books. They want to bring Kylian Mbappe in. Let's look at this comment on the screen, Matt. For 400K a week, I don't think the club would take him for this amount. I think he must
No.
agree for that is for a pay cut to even come back at Chelsea. What do you think? People in the chat,
Nah.
let us know about this great comment here from the Queen herself, Street Beer. Whether you think Hazard will agree to take a pay cut, or whether you think Chelsea will pay him 400K a week. Go ahead,
If he's
Matt.
if he's a true blue and he thinks with his heart, not his head, that 100% take a pay cut, 100%. He'll play 50, 60K a week, like Danny Alves did at Barcelona. If he's a true blue, if he's a legend, and I do see him doing that. He's 100% a legend. I 100% see him taking a cut. He should take a cut because if he wants to get his career back on board, he has to come. He has to come back to Chelsea. Or he has to go to another team because, as you said, Mbappe is coming and he has to leave. Again, that's the negative of getting him on a loan. If he's going to take time, the time he gets informed, he's going to be gone at the end of the day, and then we have to buy him for this and that. So him coming on loan wouldn't be bad, but there will be some consequences, and there would be a risk. Can we, deflect the risk? 100%. But there's a higher chance, and if we look at what he's done, if we look at him as a player and not what he's done for us, if we look at him as a player, we've seen he hasn't been performing well. You know, he hasn't played consecutive for 3 games. He's injury prone. Then we're gonna have that. Like that's already a bad start. The only way we're thinking of getting him back is because he's a club legend. If he takes a massive pay cut, get him in for sure. Let's see what he does. But if we think of
So,
him as a normal individual, I wouldn't bring him in.
okay, so I think great argument there. The risk is there, and this is a perfect example of the kind of risk. But I don't. Coutinho is really doing well at Aston Villa right now. But I think
Mm.
Hazard is a better player. But that's by the way, and Coutinho, you could argue, didn't leave Liverpool on a good note. They
Yeah.
had to. They didn't want to let him go, and he wanted to leave, and he rebelled. If you ask me. So Matt,
Yeah.
quickly tell
Stupid.
us about
I think Coach Chilla's frozen. Chat, like the stream, subscribe while Coach Chilla comes back. But I think it was something like Coutinho. If he would be gone, like Coutinho and Villa, like they'll be all right. But I know, yeah, he left on bad terms. I know he'll agree to take a pay cut, but I still don't want him back. Yes, there's going to be the division between us because, again, a lot of people, real fans will think with their heart as well, and they'll think that think of him as a player, not as a legend. Think of him as a player. I think Coachilla's back now. No, he's still frozen. But think of him as a player and think, hang on, he hasn't played well recently. If we bring him back, how is that going to affect the team? Not. I think of him as a player, as a legend, as a player, and let's look at Dembele. How people don't want Dembele, who's injury prone, but they want Hazard is injury prone, and they look at him because he's a legend. So look at him as an equal player to everyone else, and then you'll see the risk we're taking. But Coachilla's back, so yeah, you're saying.
Yeah, quickly, I was going to say, tell.
Oh my god, seriously again. Guys, like, subscribe. But has it on a free loan? Yeah, sure, I'll take it. Like
the comments in the chat and call it a day.
Sorry, you just froze.
Can you hear me, Matt?
Again. Oh, there we go. You're back now, but you're still frozen. We missed that whole.
Sorry, Matt. Can you still hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Just frozen. Oh, there we go. You're back now.
Can you still hear me, Matt?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear me? Maybe come back, join, leave, come back.
Let me know. Can you still hear me, Matt? Are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Okay, I think
Coachilla's frozen again. Maybe
connection issue here, Matt. I think I've lost Matt.
Just shoot a refresh. Refresh.
But if you're in the chat, please let me know if you can still hear me.
Guys, I don't think
we've lost.
Chilla realizes that he's frozen. Hazard should be playing Chelsea if he wants to play. Yeah, I mean, if he wants to play, like, bring him in. But again, there's gonna be a risk and there's gonna be consequences. Like bringing every other single player. It's like we're gonna bring him and he's gonna magically turn into what he was. No, and he knew that when he left. I really, really deep down knew that.
Okay.
He knew that when he leaves, he's not gonna perform as good as he did Chelsea ever. I'll compare Hazard's situation almost around. Did not pull good performance Fulham as. I mean, we can compare it to Lukaku. Like, why is someone saying Lukaku? Like, we just bought that guy who's been playing fantastically at Inter Milan to Chelsea, and he's bloody horrible. Like, he's a goddamn log in the front line. Like, again, Chelsea's not a charity. We're not going to bring back players when they're playing bad. Like, there's no refund policy. Like, we got to treat them as every other single player and not as look at their past. But yeah, Coachella is back. It's always back.
I was saying that you can quickly tell us about CFC chat so we can run down the comments in the chat and call it a day. I think we've streamed more than 13 minutes above the hour as planned. So please go ahead.
Yep, guys. CFC chats on YouTube. We do obviously reviews like Coachella, previews, transfer news, match day vlogs live from Stamford Bridge. So do make sure to go subscribe over to that. I've got my guest, obviously, you've probably seen me on here, Amir. It's me and Amir, about 2 times a week. So go check us out on there. We'll be live Saturday. Hope to see you guys there.
Yes, thank you very much for taking this. And I also provide Matt's complete information in the description section. So Matt, let's run through the comments in the chat and call it a day. He says that Hazard is misunderstood, doesn't get the ball, and has to work to even get a touch. What do you think about that comment?
It's not that he's not being. I don't know if he's trying to clarify it like he's not being treated well. Like he's just not trying. Like he's not playing well because he's not trying. He doesn't have the work ethic anymore. Will he get that at Chelsea? Hard to dictate. But what we're saying at Real Madrid is that he is lazy. That's what he is. He doesn't want to play for that club. He's not putting in the work ethic. And I don't think that's what he should be doing if he wants to get spotted by the clubs like Chelsea.
It all comes down to how he's treated. They don't treat him right.
I think they treat him fairly. I think he just doesn't put in the effort. That's why they don't give him the respect. Real Madrid's a team where they you can easily fit in if you play well, if you try. Like we look at Vinicius Junior last season, like he was playing horrible, but I remember always Modric lifting his head up. Casemiro was always helping him, supporting him. With Hazard, like he'll suffer dribble, you won't ever run to it, and that's why they don't pass to him because he doesn't try, he doesn't put the effort in, and that's what Madrid want.
And
You could you,
this
you
is a
could you
very
could
good
suffer.
comment. I think it was with Tyrone. We talked about it that Chelsea has a very good. Was it Tyrone or I've forgotten his name. They said Chelsea has a very good medical team, and that Hazard's injury wouldn't be an issue. But at Madrid, there it looks like they don't have a
No,
good medical team.
nah. I mean, I don't know what anyone's waffling about. Like, it doesn't matter about your medical team. You get injured, you get injured. Like, if we have a great medical team, Pulisic gets injured every week. Blah blah. blah. So there's no good medical team. There's no medical team that's going to save from injuries. It's just that despite how they can fix it, and everyone does well.
I know you know why I'm laughing already. You can see the comments on the screen.
Like, calls and shit. I mean, I'm just looking at like literally the realistic standpoint on it. Like I'm saying, my head says, yeah, let's get him back, but my heart's saying that let's treat him as a normal player.
Here's the good thing about the whole thing is that it's a loan. It's a loan deal, a loan option. We're not buying him, and we're not. There's no obligation to play him.
Mm.
If he comes in and he's informed, I think Tuchel will play him without minding. And then we could decide maybe. Let me say if he comes in and he's performing well, maybe Tuchel will say, okay, let's buy him, and I think we'll get him for a cheap. If he does well, I mean, let's get him. He's a legend, and he's
He's
still
a
not
legend.
that
Yeah.
old.
He's a legend, but again, yeah, if we loan him, depending on those wages as well, because again, if we want to go for Hazard, why aren't we not going for Dembele as well? Like they're both injury prone, but the difference between them is Dembele is way younger. He's performing better than Hazard, but the only difference is that Hazard has previous experiences with us. Why would we take that into account right now when we're looking in the future, not the past? So we can
Mm,
dictate his past, but how can we use that in the future? We can use it as
mm.
references, but how like where's the evidence now that he's playing well? So it's hard to pinpoint out. So, but we'll have to decide when it comes closer to August because again, he could possibly just magically start playing well again, and then we can pick him up there because he has to get match fitness. Is like maybe he can do that before August. So we'll see. It's still a long way.
Yes, good comment there. He did not force the move, unlike one Belgian we know,
Uh,
one Belgian brother. Possible
hey, at
babes,
least
but
at
come
least
on.
he brought at least that snake brought in another fantastic world class keeper,
Yeah,
Kepa
Hazard.
Arrizabalaga.
I think I remember Hazard left for Madrid, and still he left a Chelsea sticker on his phone. I think camera caught it by mistake, and I think his mind is still set at Chelsea. Hazard would always be respected at Chelsea. It's the injuries that just gets into my head. I think he will overcome that if he comes back. Did you watch Jorginho against Belgium in last eight of Euros? I did not, and Madrid fans boo Hazard. Yeah, please bring him home for
Because
me.
he's not
Chelsea
trying. He
fans
doesn't
will
try. He
show
just
him
stands
love.
there.
Yeah. So Matt, you check if there's any comment there that interests you. I can highlight it so we can round off quickly because you're the guest today. I know he will agree to a pay cut, but I still don't want him back. Chichi,
Gonna
just
bring up
as I
ties.
thought that you would be on my side, but it's okay. Uh, did you see
Bring
any
ties
comment there
coming
you
up.
want us to look
Yeah,
at?
gonna bring ties two comments there. About the cheering on
Which one? We have more position.
1-9.
What starts the comment?
Ty says here at Chelsea you get cheated on if you're poor. At Madrid it's ruthless and you don't get support most of the time. And at Madrid they will cheer you on if you run or try, give effort. Hazard will just stand there on the wing, and when he plays, the man hasn't played. When was the last time he's actually played? Let me. I want to quickly just give me a quick look, and I want to see the last time Hazard has played a consistent run of games. I genuinely don't think it's been for. Would you know on top of your head like when he's played consistently? Because I have no idea.
Sorry, you talking to me?
Yeah, hang on. Just gonna get Eden Hazard's transfer market up. Just give me a sec. I just want to quickly look before we end the stream. Just give me a second. Look at his player profile. But we have declared. I'm trying to look at his NBA. So he's played. He's only had three. Oh, that's Champions League. Where is the fuck? 17 appearances and 1 assist.
For
Wow.
how many
I
years?
mean, he's only played 31% of those minutes. So
But
again,
can you agree that his situation there isn't down to his, that is, it's not
mhm.
his, it's not at all, that is his, he's not that is, it's not his fault, not entirely his fault.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that definitely because I'm looking now. He's only been injured for 2 games. The rest he's played or he's been on the bench. So he's had that standpoint that he's been given the chance. He's just been replaced. Like it's just another football game where he's been replaced and there's better players on that pitch than him, and they're not going to start him.
Yeah, yeah, but I think I understand. I was waiting for something like this to come from Mikael. I think that's
True,
that's
should be paying
not
us.
nice. Hazard should be paying Chelsea if he wants to play for us. Oh, come
Shout.
on, Mikael, be fair, beat. You're talking about Chelsea legend here. Do you see any other comment here you'd like to address so we can call it a day? We're more possessive compared to your Belgians. Okay, Inter is not, he cracks under
But
pressure. I think I know who he's talking about. One of our brothers. At Chelsea, you get cheered on it if you are poor. At Madrid, it's ruthless, and you don't get support more of the time. That's the truth. I think their fans, they don't take. Big up to you, Declan. Big up to Chichi, Eze, and anybody I haven't said hi to. It's a loan, not a
declared
permanent.
also
If it
just
doesn't work out, we don't have obligation. Go ahead, Matt. You were going to say
so
something.
Fahim said Hazard needs to be the main guy at Madrid. He's not. He definitely needs to be a guy who can progress something, like a side guy. He's nothing. And that's the reason why I wouldn't bring him back, because we look at his experience now. Look at the prior experience. We look at the prior experience. He's brought at Chelsea. It's fantastic. But what he's doing now, he's not being a star at Madrid. And that's what he was there to do. And he didn't uphold it. Will he uphold it at Chelsea? I don't see it because he hasn't seen anything the last 3 years when he's been at Madrid. So he needs to be the main guy. He needs to be a side guy. But at the moment, he's a bench guy.
Yeah, he's a bench guy indeed. And declared tomorrow is going to be an open panel, and the main topic is going to be whether Chelsea should bring Hazard back or not. And we'll go into details for it. But today it is Matt's choice because as a guest on Blue Morning, you bring a current event that you want to talk about. So Matt decided he wanted to talk about him. Coachella, other channels are running the topic of MPs possibly removing Abramovich as Chelsea owner. This is a good point here. Anything you want to say about it, Matt?
Yeah, I mean,
Just
obviously the
briefly, if you have
controversy
time.
going on. Yeah, obviously I got heaps of time. Obviously the controversy going on there. I mean, that's obviously MPs. They're probably Arsenal fans who just literally want to get rid of Chelsea money. Realistically, that's not going to happen. But again, this with the conflict, no one can understand what's going to happen there. So I don't see it happening. Because obviously Chelsea's part owned, not part owned, but there's obviously multiple investments into it as well, and he would have it under businesses' names. So if
And
you really deep dive
you can't
into it,
just end
he's
it
not
like
just
that
going to
because
remove it. Oh yeah, of
the club
course.
owes the guy $2 billion, 2 billion plus.
Yeah, so it's not really just Abramovich, and just because he's from Russia, it's under businesses' names as well, and that's obviously worldwide. So it's a bit different. But obviously, just there's some news as well today that the Champions League final has been moved to Paris, not in Russia anymore. Which, I mean, I don't know what people think of that. If it's closer to England, if it's better for you guys, more convenient. But obviously, for me, I ain't going anywhere, so it doesn't make a
Yeah,
difference for
I
me.
think
It's better
the
weather.
Champions League moving wouldn't even change the situation, but at least it's something. It's some measure of sanction.
Mm,
I don't really want to go into the politics why what's happening is happening. But I think tomorrow we will talk about this in details, and I think Stav has a good understanding of the situation. Stav will know whether it will affect the club or not, how it will affect the club. So this is another topic to touch on tomorrow because tomorrow the Blue Morning Show tomorrow is a marathon version. It's on Saturday, which was the original day dedicated for Blue Morning. So we'll touch on this topic tomorrow. So quickly, Hazard needs to be the main guy. Yeah, I think Matt had talked about that already. Do you guys even know how much
and
money
that's a big
Hazard is
factor.
on? We know
400k.
400K a week, and we've talked about whether he would take a pay cut or something like that. And Nick Blue, big up to you. I see you, brother. I did not intentionally jump you. Isn't Stamford Bridge fans owned or something? The Stamford Bridge is
Nah,
it's
the
something, the
fans know
pitch
anything.
owners, something called the pitch owners.
Not too sure. I don't think they're owned by the fans at all. I think
Yeah,
it's
the
all owned
pitch
just by the
owners.
team.
Yeah, they call it the pitch owners. I think
Ah,
more. Yeah, I think
not
that's a
sure.
different thing again. Nick Blue is going nowhere.
What do you
Who did?
think will happen to Roman Abramovich now? Nothing's going to happen to Roman
Nothing's
Abramovich.
gonna happen.
Absolutely nothing.
He's a smart guy, and the guy is an Israeli citizen, so he could
Yeah,
sue
yeah.
the UK government and say, "Look, I'm an Israeli
I
citizen
don't
and
think they're
all that."
getting
I
into
think,
it anyway. I think
yeah,
nothing.
and
I
the
don't think
club
they're
owes
getting
him.
into it.
The money that clubs owes Roman Abramovich is more like an insurance. You can't just do away with him like that.
Hmm.
I think it's just nonsense, and people has the right to be afraid. But like I said, we're touching that topic in detail tomorrow. Nick Blue, he's going nowhere, and yep, from dump MPs. Thank you. I like that one. I think I should highlight that comment. Interesting. He can take half of pay cut, and it's still too much
Yeah,
though.
it's still.
I think yeah, it is. I think it's up to him. Hopefully, he agrees to come back for a lower fee. I think he makes that your argument here makes great sense. But I still want him out of the club. Mikhail says Hazard wants to come to CFC to rebuild. Yeah, I think it's more important. Coming back to Chelsea will do him more good than he would do Chelsea. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, it would. I do think, like, again, he would be better at Chelsea than he would at the same time at Madrid. But there's so many factors that we must consider, and a majority of that factor is that pay cut. And I agree with McCall, where 90, 100%. If he wants to rebuild his career, if he is a true blue, he will take that pay cut.
And it would do him a world of good than it would do Chelsea,
Yeah.
even Madrid, because he will rebuild his career. Then he can go elsewhere if Chelsea can pay him that much money. That is the amount of money that Madrid is paying him. I think for that reason, the fact that he understands that Chelsea is home for Hazard, I think he wouldn't mind going as low as the amount of money he was owing at Chelsea before, because he will really, that is, he can feed off the love from the Chelsea fans, and then start firing on all cylinders again and find another club. It will do him a world of good, like we've established. Chichi Eze, that's okay. Thank you for the likes. You wonderful. Thank you. The Queen herself thanks you all for the likes on the video. And I think with that, Matt, any final thoughts so that we can call it a day?
Yeah, guys, just make sure to like, guys, subscribe, go subscribe to CFC Chats. Massive discussion we had. It was a great, great chat we had. A great comment section, great discussion, great debate. So hope to tune in next time. And yeah.
Yes, it's been a great show, and I thank you all, everybody in the chat from Streetbear, Mikhail, Nick Blue, Declared, and if I did not say your name, I'm only human. I have CFC Fame, who also have a great channel. Please go check out Fahim's channel and make sure you check out CFC Chat. The Queen herself, thank you so much for always being there, providing great value to the stream. Phantom of many topics, everybody, Thai talks. I can't name everybody, but I appreciate you all. You made it worthwhile. Thank you very much. Chichi is also my sister. I'd say Dalo, I appreciate you. Thank you. God bless you all. See you all next time. Cheers.